Hey everybody, welcome to the Health Bridge. This is Dr. Pedram Shojai here with Dr. Sarah Gottfried. Hi, Sarah.
Hey guys, how's everybody?
Wow, this has been so fun because I actually got some time with Sarah this last week, and we don't see each other that often. We got some fun in the sun, and we are actually excited to share our friend Shawn Stevenson with you today because Shawn has his hands in a lot of really cool stuff, and I just really love his story and the way he brings it. So welcome Shawn Stevenson to the Health Bridge.
Thank you so much, man, and I'm honored to be here.
Excellent. Well, one of my favorite parts of your story is, you have that kind of health version of rags to riches where, the doctors told you you were screwed and you had back pain that was, not getting any better. And you decided to take matters into your own hand and look into food and things that might also be important. So I'd love for you to just give a little background so that we could just jump in and play with Sarah here.
Absolutely. Well, my story is pretty interesting. And for me, it began when I was an athlete in high school. And an interesting thing happened. I was doing a time trial in track, and I was doing a 200-meter sprint, and I broke my hip. All right. I'm just doing a all-out sprint, and my hip breaks. And I'm just thinking I pulled a muscle. So I continued to limp through practice the rest of the day. And I even came the next day. And then my coach had me go get checked out. And what happened was I pulled a muscle, but the iliac crest of my hip broke off as well. And so we're looking at my scan. It's just like this little piece of bone just hanging off in space. And I went through the conventional treatment. They had me do the jacuzzi bath and some ultrasound and things like that. And I was young, so, I mended up. But no one asked the question, like, why did this young kid's bone just break? Like, how is that even possible? So that was the first kind of hint as to what was going to happen in the future. So fast forward, 20 years old, aspiring athlete, life is seemingly going good. Then all of a sudden I'm having trouble walking. And my doctor has me go in and get an MRI of my spine. And come to find out, I had 2 herniated discs. And he told me that I had the spine of an 80-year-old person. All right, and I'm 20. Life is supposed to be hot and heavy right now, everything going good. But all of a sudden, I'm an 80-year-old as far as my spine and what essentially my nervous system is running through there, So I've got this chronic pain going down my leg all the time. And when I sat with my doctor, my original doctor, after he told me I had the spine of an 80-year-old, I asked him, and I don't know to this day, Pedram, like where this question came from. Like, was it my guardian angel or my spirit animal or something that had me ask this question? But I asked, does this have anything to do with what I'm eating? Should I exercise differently? And I asked this question, and he looked at me like I was straight up from another planet. And he proceeded to tell me this has nothing to do with what you're eating. This is something you're gonna have to live with. We're gonna get you some pills, we're gonna get you some medication, we're gonna get you a back brace, and this is just gonna have to work itself out. So the interesting thing and the biggest takeaway for everyone is that he said this has nothing to do with what I was eating, but then he wrote me a prescription to eat some pills. Right? So he said this has nothing to do with what you're putting in your mouth, but put these in your mouth, right? And so I listened to him as a good little soldier. Fast forward 2.5 years, got much, much worse to the degree I had to medicate myself because the pain would wake me up if I changed position while sleeping. Obviously, depression would come along with that. I put a lot of weight on, was not feeling my 22-year-old prime at all. And that's when a life-changing moment happened. And it wasn't like leprechauns came out or a genie or something, rainbow shot out of my butt. It's nothing like that. But I sat on my bed about to take my medication and just like something hit me that I've been giving my health and my sovereignty over to someone else. I'd been entrusting all these people outside of me with my health and with my well-being. And I made a decision right then that I was going to take control of my body, take control of my own mind. And I put in place a plan. And so again, this wasn't like magic happened, but I put a strategy together. And strategy number 1, funny enough, was to move. All right. All these physicians, and I saw 4 more doctors, all told me same thing: bed rest, be careful, don't do too much. The interesting thing is that your body requires you to be active for it to heal itself. You have to move to give your body a reason to do anything. And so I started to employ more movement, walking. Then it led to, riding a bike. Then it led to doing a little bit of running, lifting weights again. 6 weeks later, guys, it was as if the pain had never been there. The pain was totally gone, and I lost 30 pounds. And again, results not typical. I got to say that, but the weight just flew off of me. I got my vitality, not back, but better than it ever was. And people saw this change that happened. And because it was pretty dramatic, for somebody to be limping around. And actually, I was afraid to get up, and I would wait for everybody to leave class before I got up. And, I was still in college at the time. So for people to see that, and then to see this person who is all of a sudden fit, they've got this vitality, their skin's glowing, their eyes are shining. A lot of people started to ask me for help, and that was the birthing of my career. I shift over my course of study to biology and wrap things up there. And it's been thousands of people I've worked with ever since. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, what a story. Shawn, this is my first time hearing about what happened to you. And oh my gosh, I just can't even imagine that you're sprinting and you break your hip. I just want to
Right.
call out to everybody that, broken hips we see in 80-year-old women who fall when they're walking down the stairs. You don't see it in some high schooler who's running track.
Right.
So wow. And this whole point that you just made about sovereignty, I just want to dwell in that space for a moment, because whether you've got a doctor telling you at age 20 that you've got the spine of an 80-year-old and you have to take these ridiculous pills, or, maybe you're pregnant and your doctor's telling you to go on bed rest, which, oh, by the way, has been disproven for preterm labor. There's so many ways that we give our sovereignty away. And I just want to ask you to tell us a little bit more about that. You had this light bulb moment where you realized you were giving it away. Yeah. Tell us what happened after that. How did you really step into that grace that you're talking about over the next 6 weeks?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful question. For me, I realized that I had been asking disempowering questions, and really our behaviors and our identity, our perception of ourselves, we always strive to meet that. We always strive to do things that are congruent with how we see ourselves. So I was asking these disempowering questions, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why won't anyone help me? And so your brain, like the reticular cortex, the reticular activating system, will seek out answers to those questions. It's how we're wired up. So I immediately started to catch that and catch myself and started to ask more empowering questions. What is it that I need to do to heal? What is it that I need to do to be the best version of myself? How can I learn everything that I can about this condition? So I started asking these questions, and things started to, funny enough, present themselves in my life. So I decided I was going to learn everything that I could about the human body, about this condition, and more so stop focusing on sickness and focus on wellness. How do I be healthy instead of getting better from this illness? And so that sent me on an interesting journey. And the first thing that I did, by the way, was, and this is simple, but it's not necessarily easy, but this is like Captain Obvious too. I stopped eating fast food. That was the first thing that I did. And the reason why, I didn't know why it was bad for me. I knew it was bad for me. And so here's what I did and got dramatically better results by doing this. I made a lot of the same foods I would get, the burritos, tacos, burgers, that kind of thing, but I radically upgraded the ingredients. I would go and get grass-fed beef. I would go and get organic tortilla shells, to make my tacos. And I would get all fresh vegetables and start putting that into my food. And I was shopping, so this was like 13 years ago. So I'm shopping at Whole Foods here in Missouri. We're like the last place to get data. You know what I'm saying? Heartland kind of filters in here from the coast. So when I was shopping at Whole Foods, it was just like me shopping there and like two people, like a random old guy and then like a professional athlete, right? And so I was getting my food from there, and I noticed that I started to feel better. And the reality, what happened was, food is not just food, it's information. So I was putting higher quality information into my body. And as you guys know, this will elicit genetic programs. This will activate or turn on genetic programs that can start to repair some of this stuff. So that was phase one, level one, was just improving the data that was coming in. Once I started to get better, and you guys know this too, when you feel better, you do better. So my brain just got sharper. It's kind of upgraded my intelligence. And I started to seek out like, okay, this issue is going on with my spine. What is my spine made of? So I asked that question, and I started to look into that and understanding my discs were severely degenerated. And by the way, I went back to see my doctor a couple months later, and he took a scan, and he said the same thing. And many of my patients, their physicians have said, which is whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Because in his paradigm, like that wasn't possible. My 2 ruptured discs had retracted, and I got juiciness back into my disc again.
Oh, you got juicy. Oh, snap. I like that. He just said juicy, Pedram.
She's got a few words that, just light her up, and that's one of them.
No further comment necessary. Okay, so you got juicy. I love it. Yes. Your disc got juicy. Your spine got juicy.
So I got juicy, and what's so interesting is that our discs are non-vascular, right? So this is the last place to get nutrition a lot of times, the last place to get hydration. So it's a process of remote diffusion. So basically like water has to pass through some crazy barrier to get into your disc. So for me at the time, I was radically dehydrated. I was maybe drinking like a cup of water a day, maybe, mostly drinking like, I know, crazy, right? Sunny D and like, I don't know what I was drinking, but it wasn't water. And so I employed a strategy of getting super hydrated. Every single morning, especially when I wake up in the morning, I was drinking a liter of water. And then that got into the conversation of like, what's the best water? What's the most intelligent water? And that sent me down a whole other path. So each step along the way that I employed something else presented itself. And again, it all just really started back with me asking higher quality questions.
That's fantastic.
So good.
So many people are still at the phase where they'll stop and get fast food maybe once or twice a week because they're late. And they just don't plan it. And that's something, Sarah and I have talked about a fair amount with different guests is like, you can pretty much reasonably predict that sometime around noon you're going to get hungry. And then again, sometime around 5 or 6. So it's like, people act so surprised that they're hungry or famished all of a sudden. So what are some hacks that you can give people who are, say, doing the fast food thing now and again because of time, and how can they get some good quality foods with them out on the road so that they don't have to fall on that sword?
Pedram, the reality is that society right now is structured in a way that's not conducive to our health. When you get out there on the road, there's like McDonald's, convenience store, Taco Bell, and just in a sequence, just over and over repeating itself. There's a lot of change happening right now. And I really believe that, we're pioneering a lot of that and getting this information out there. So it just goes back to the old Benjamin Franklin thing. If you're not preparing, then you're preparing to fail. So it really boils down to, first of all, asking the question, like I already brought up, how can I structure my life so that I can only put high quality food in my body? And a lot of times it just takes, and this is, again, is Captain Obvious, but we hardly ever do this. Pull out a calendar, like get a schedule out, get a calendar out, and literally write out what you're going to eat. Write out what you're going to have for that entire week. And I've done on my show a lot of different interviews with experts and asking this question, like, what about the people with the most hectic schedule? They've got like 5 kids, book tour, running a gym. How do they do it? And what I've really gotten back is that the most simple thing, again, is just getting back to basics. Like, use your crock pot, make 3 meals at a time, and put all that, just throw your chicken in there, pour your whatever sauce in there, close it, go have a good day. And prepare your meal in advance, so that when it's time, when you're out there on the road, you can just grab your little Tupperware thing and you can eat, And also, I want to point out the fact that it's okay to not eat sometimes. We act like we're going to straight up die. You know what I'm saying? It's just not true, And it's this rhetoric that we have in our mind, like, if I miss a meal, my metabolism is going to slow down. If your metabolism really slowed down, you die. You know what I'm saying? If you're alive, your metabolism is rolling along. That's just, again, this misinformation that's propagated by $1 billion industry of fitness and diet, And the reality is, for some of us, some fasting can do us a lot of good, skipping a meal here or there. And what you guys know, too, is that research shows that will actually help to extend the life of your cells. You can actually live a longer life by employing a little bit of structured fasting, So Yeah, I'd say both of those things. Just prepare your stuff in advance, Captain Obvious, and then also step into the discomfort a little bit or enjoy the time that you don't eat and give your body the opportunity to actually go and start breaking down free fatty acids and use that for fuel.
That's great. I totally love that. And I just wanted to throw out, you mentioned the crock pot. I wanted to tell our listeners, we know that many of you are commuting, and so we try to keep these podcasts around 25 to 30 minutes, and it's a perfect amount of time for me to have my broccoli baking in the coconut oil up in my oven. Like, it's just enough time, like 45 minutes, an hour, to have the yummiest broccoli, nutrient dense, when we're done recording. So I love how you made this really simple for us. And, Shawn, it seems like we need Captain Obvious every day. Like, we need reminders, right? It's almost like you take a bath, you do Captain Obvious. You take a shower. What is Captain Obvious today?
Right. Captain Obvious here, random citizen. Yeah, I totally agree. But this is why shows like this are so important, because it helps each time. It might be me, it might be something Pedram says, but the way that we express it can trigger something in somebody's consciousness, so oftentimes, and this is how really, I don't talk about this much, but this is kind of one of the secrets to my success, of all the stuff that I've accomplished since going through that whole dramatic thing, which is immersion. I immersed myself in the information and the people and the community and the teachings that I really wanted to become, so it didn't matter if I heard something one time or if I was hearing the same person on a different interview, for example. I would always pick up something else, and I would strive to listen in and to pick up something else, because also you're listening with new ears each time. You've updated yourself, you've upgraded yourself, and it's incredibly powerful, when you use that strategy of immersion, really shutting out all the negativity and all the drama. I live a drama-free zone, man. Like, I'm walking around. I don't really.
Whoa. Wait a moment, Shawn. Like, I need that. And Pedram is agreeing, like, vigorously. So
she needs
how
that.
do you create? What's that?
She needs that.
Oh, yeah.
We all need that. The world is filled with drama, and we're all drowning in it.
Yeah.
So, Shawn, how do I create a drama-free zone? Because, drama has, like, set up shop in the corner for years now. Hi, drama.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. First thing would be to understand a basic. Well, let me give an example. If you're, if the scale of human potential is like 1 to 10, like you're a 10 person is like some enlightened being who's like bliss land all the time, Dalai Lama status, right?
Or
and
Pedram.
Or Pedram, right? Or your Shojai status.
Obviously.
Say if you're a level 5 person, okay, and a level 4 problem happens, that's going to tear down your whole day, maybe your whole week. It's going to be a huge problem in your life. But if you're a level 9 person and a level 4 problem happens, you can handle that on your lunch break. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have your assistant take care of that stuff, It's really about growing yourself so that the problems that are inherent in living this life, when they show up, they just don't faze you as much because you've grown as a person. And each person is different. It might be a different quality or capacity that you need to develop just so that the drama doesn't affect you, because it's going to happen. Like, there's drama all around us. We're swimming in it, but we're also swimming in beauty and potentiality, So it's really just focusing in on, what can I do to develop the qualities necessary for me to look forward to people acting up around me. You know what I'm saying? So that's step 1. Step 2 is, for me, it's this one word: standards. I have really, really high standards for the people and the activities that I allow in my life. And it's not an easy thing to have, honestly. And my wife can tell you, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's had to deal with me and me being so progressive and me really having these high standards. And so it's taken a lot of patience on my part too, and on her part, with each other, to really understand that this is just the way that I am. This is the modus operandi that I'm operating from. And, with that said, some people just don't resonate. And the thing is, it's not like, ew, you're gross, like, get away from it. I don't have that kind of thing. I'm very, very loving and compassionate and people enjoy being around me. It's just a matter of like, because I made a conscious decision a while ago, I don't think about this. However life works, the universe, whatever you want to call it, will just kind of migrate people out of my circle, that aren't on that progressive path. So I have very high standards coming in the door of what I even allow in, and also high standards of the people and the activities going on around me. So I hope that made sense. I've never talked about that before.
I think that makes perfect sense. We were actually just at this event where there was some health and wellness celebrity person talking about, the distinction of whether or not you're interested or committed, right? And a lot of people are interested in health, and a lot of people are interested in stress management. Like, I'll have a kale smoothie for breakfast before I have, the Carl's Jr. at lunch, because I was kind of interested in health, but I forgot. Or I know I'm stressed out, so I'm going to go to yoga one night a week, and I say I do yoga, but do I? Right? And so being committed to your health means, pushing all your chips in. Being committed to changing the world that's imbued with drama means figuring out how to reorient your entire operating system. So I really respect what you said, and I think you're coming from a real sincere, homegrown place on that, because it shows in just how you carry yourself. And that's it. You had to make those decisions and draw a line around your life so that the world doesn't take away your power, take away your time, and take away your attention, so you could do those things.
Right, precisely. It's really about what you allow, and yeah, everybody has that opportunity to declare that they have higher standards and start to seek out. Like I said, that word allowing really means a lot to me, because I don't want anybody to feel disempowered or that they're a victim. Because that's just not a reality unless you allow it to be that way. So I really want people to walk away from any kind of interaction with me, or just in their life period, even outside of me, just to feel more empowered and to understand that you are in control of your life, and all the stuff that happened historically, whatever happened in your past is the past. And that is actually one of the roots, and maybe we could talk a little bit about this, is one of the core reasons why we have such a high recovery rate or reversal rate of depression here, because depression is really this fascination of the past, these historical things. And this depression is being disconnected from our power right now. And then the anxiety is on the other side of that. That's a fixation on the future, and all these potential things, these potential problems that might happen. And it creates this disharmony in us, this vibration of just like, it just doesn't feel good. And where's the place that our power really exists? And Pedram, you guys know this too. I love talking with you guys about this. It exists right now, in the present. And I'm not getting on this Eckhart Tolle tip right now. I'm not trying to, but the reality is, like, this is where we make our decisions from.
You're a lot more handsome than Eckhart, just saying, for those who are watching the video. Or if you're not watching the video, you should be watching the video, believe me.
Sarah, oh my goodness.
I'm just going to flirt with you shamelessly.
Totally.
So I can't help but going to this place of taking up what you just said about depression and asking about Robin Williams.
Wow.
I have so much grief about him taking his life. He's such a talented man, such a great man, one of my favorite actors of all time. And I'm still processing the grief of his depression, his demons. And I just wonder if you could share some thoughts about, kind of the toll that depression takes, and maybe connect it to some of these points that we're making about your commitment to change.
Wow. Yeah, this is a really interesting time right now that we're recording this. This was just like, not even 48 hours ago. And to see an interesting figure like that, he's just an interesting person. If you say anything about him, he's definitely interesting. He definitely captivates you. And he seemed like he had so much happiness in him, like he was actually in comedy, but this isn't the first time that people in similar positions have taken their lives, through different modalities. But right now, I think, because obviously this is a fresh story, it's important to look at, okay, this man had it's seemingly a lot to live for. Why would he do such a thing like this? It's actually hard to talk about.
It is hard, I know.
really underlying it all, we have to understand that we all put on a facade of some sort, you know, and we all have our kind of outer world image and our outer world expression. And then we have our kind of internal world, our internal chatter, you know, and then there's layers between that. So even though we can be outwardly expressing certain things internally, obviously, I think one of the core things was there was a lot of negative inner chatter that he was carrying around, and questioning himself and questioning his value. Because why else would he take his life if he didn't understand his value? And the thing is, like, of course, he's impacted millions of people, but what about his inherent value within his own family structure? You know, oftentimes when an individual steps to suicide, I think that people would actually be better without them. And for those individuals who might be dealing with depression right now, I'm just going to be straight about it. It's a very, very selfish perception, you know, because the reality is 99.999% of the time, your loved ones want you more so than their seeming freedom without you, or whatever they might get from that. You know, it's like, it's not even comparable. So there was some selfish motivation behind that. You know, maybe it was a feeling that, you know, if he was gone, people would remember him more or value him more. Some kind of thing. I really think that that was a part of it, but this is all speculation, you know. But what we can do as leaders is have this discussion about, okay, what about the other individuals? Because there are millions of people that are battling with depression right now. What can we do to help fortify their own value, their own health and wellness? And one of the things I've got to point this out. We think that, you know, oftentimes when somebody goes to see a physician about depression, they are prescribed medication, like we'll just say like a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, based off of a conversation, right? They didn't do a brain scan or check out, you know, like what Dr. Amen is doing. They're not looking at anything, probably not even looking at blood work. This is based off me telling you I've got some problems, right? We've all got problems, but the media, the society at large has really cultivated this thing of like, you know, when you see the commercials, if you're not walking around in a field of grass and, you know, you're dancing around rainbows and carrying a basket of strawberries or something, your life isn't good, right? So maybe you should consider taking this drug. So first of all, it's really negligent on the part of our physicians to be passing out drugs based on a conversation. Second thing is, here's the big money thing right here. The serotonin I just brought up, for example, approximately 80-ish% of that is produced in your gut, right? So this isn't even like, we feel like the depression's like in our head. There's something wrong with my brain. Actually, the majority of this is going down in the second brain, you know, which is your stomach. And so just literally like we're eating sickness now. We're eating depression. We're eating depressing foods, you know, and not understanding the power that that has. Because again, food isn't just food, it's information, you know. So it's a whole cycle of things that has to change for us to be a happier society, you know. I hope all that made sense. This is, you know, a really obviously like a sensitive subject, but yeah, I think it's important for us to talk about this.
Yeah, you know, I had a cousin in my family that actually committed suicide, and we had no idea how much anguish he was going through because he pretended to be happy every time he was around us. And somehow, you know, it's like when you ask people how they're doing, it's like, great, I'm doing great, everything's fine. And it's like, it's not okay to tell people that you're sad. It's not okay to be honest about things. And it's that bipolar aspect of our society where our external facade, you know, just has all these bricks falling out and we're just mortaring up all the time, just trying to, you know, continue to pretend to be who we think we ought to be for everybody instead of just being authentic and pure. And man, talk about a stunner, you know, when something like that hits you, you know, just inside the castle walls, you know, it's like, this guy's dead. And it's really tough because, you know, in this case, you know, he wanted to be a writer and a poet, and his folks basically, you know, convinced him that he should be a lawyer because, you know, real men make money. And so he was miserable and he killed himself. Right. And it's one of those things where it's just, you know, society has so many norms that we think are important. and we hold ourselves to those things. Like Robin Williams, this happened with Bobby McFerrin too. Remember Don't Worry, Be Happy?
Yeah.
You know, every time he'd be stressed out about something, people would be like, hey man, don't worry, be happy, you know, what's up? And he's just like, God, what have I done? It's like, sometimes I'm not happy. Back off. Guys, I know we're running out of time and we can talk about this and maybe we'll just do another show on it. Shawn, I know you have a book that's killing it right now on sleep, and that's kind of, you know, that's been the next dragon that you've slain and had gone after. Tell us quickly about what that is and, you know, how people can find it.
Absolutely. So the premise of the book is just understanding that sleep is a force multiplier. It can effectively increase the negativity in your life. You know, it can make things far worse, or it can make things far better, exponentially better, depending on where you lie on that sleep spectrum. Okay, so sleep is a force multiplier. And also in the book, I say it's the secret sauce. And one of the reasons it's so important, number one, let's start with performance. Let's start with that. One of the studies that I cited in the book, they took executives and they took them through a task, right? They had them complete a task. Then they sleep deprived them, just 24 hours. The second time they did the task, they made 14% more errors, okay? And it took them 20% longer to do the same task, okay? Or actually, I've got those backwards. It took them, they took them 14% longer. They made 20% more mistakes. So understanding the only thing different was they didn't get any high quality sleep, all right? So it's kind of like a little bit of like driving drunk in a way, all right? So we really need to understand that sleep is so valuable because a lot of people are sacrificing their sleep to work more, not understanding there's a difference between work and being effective. You know, so if we structure our time better to get that high quality sleep, we get stuff done faster. We're more creative. Those capacities of our brains just work better. You know, so that's one of the interesting things. And then of course, I related to our health and fitness, the way that our body composition. We talk about depression in the book. And one of the big takeaways I want everybody to have today, before, you know, we kind of wrap things up is, there was a really interesting study. It was the Canadian Medical Association Journal. They put individuals, they had a control group that slept 8+ hours a night. Then they had the sleep deprivation group, right? They had them on the same diet, same exercise. After the study was over, the sleep deprived group lost less body fat and less weight. Like it's right there, black and white. The only thing different was they didn't sleep. So please understand that sleep is the area that your body really does all the changes. When you go into deep sleep, especially at first stage, it's when your body secretes the highest amount of human growth hormone, which is the youth hormone. You know, not like Barry Bonds, Jason Giambi, HGH, or like your own HGH gets secreted, right? And then obviously, you know, the melatonin is a powerful anti-cancer hormone. It's a powerful, quote, anti-aging hormone, you know, and you're not secreting that stuff if your sleep patterns are not right. So I don't know how much time we have to maybe give some tips about this, but the book right now, it's #1 bestseller on Amazon, so people can check it out there. It's called Sleep Smarter. It's 21 proven tips to sleep your way to a better body, better health, bigger success. And not only do we talk about the cool stuff, and I make it fun, I make sleep sexy. Not only do we talk about the good stuff about sleep, I tell you how to do it. Okay, so each of the 21 tips ends with a power tip or power tips at the end of the chapter. So if you learn about how sunlight impacts your sleep quality, I tell you how to actually leverage that. You know, so you don't got to do everything right. Just add a couple of these things in and it will definitely change your life. I guarantee it.
That's fantastic.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Shawn Stevenson. So I want to recap some of the brilliant and wise things that you shared with us today. And I also, you know, I've been thinking so much about Robin Williams, and I just wanted to say that I feel like suicide is not about wanting death. I feel like it's really about the pain that a person's experiencing and wanting an end to the pain.
Yes.
And it makes me so sad that Robin, with all of his talent and all of his fame and how he lit up the world, lit up so many of our lives, that for whatever reason, he wasn't able to relieve that pain.
Yeah.
And I feel so emotional about it. I just wanted to honor that and thank you for, I totally sprung that question on you, and I appreciate how you answered it with so much wisdom. Thank you. So here's a recap. It's a little hard for me to get into sexy librarian mode, but let me do my best.
Yes. All right.
So you started first by telling us this amazing story about being told at age 20 that you had the spine of a 80-year-old, and how that created this light bulb moment where you said, oh my gosh, I am giving my power away. I'm giving away my sovereignty. And so I ask our listeners, where are you giving away your sovereignty? Where are you giving away your power to your doctors, your nurse practitioners, other people in your life? Number two, I love this point you made about don't ask disempowering questions. I think it's our default. We're trained to do this. Why me? Why is this happening to me? Why isn't anyone helping me? It's this very victim-y thing that it's a loop we get stuck in. And so you had the reframe of, what do I need to do to heal? How do I take this on in a totally fresh new way? Love it. Number three, you talked about these Captain Obvious moments that I thought were so powerful, like stop eating fast food. But the new thing that I heard from you is kind of this sideways move, which is, how could I recreate what I love about the fast food, but upgrade the ingredients, like making the burrito with the grass-fed beef and tons of green vegetables. I love that. Number four, when you feel better, you do better. And you talked here about asking some of these curious questions, like what's in my bones? What's in my discs? Oh, I need to hydrate more. So everybody start drinking that glass of water. I love this idea of drinking a liter when you first get up in the morning, hydration. And then you ask the next empowering question, what's the best water? Totally love that. Number five, how to structure my life so I only put the best food in my body. You talked about preparation in advance and how structured fasting shouldn't be something we're afraid of. Number six, you talked about immersion, kind of keep listening, keep learning, listen with new ears. Number seven, the one I most need to hear, create a drama-free zone. And I love some of the points you had. You got to listen to those again or watch the transcript to learn about those. And then number eight, you finished with sleep as a force multiplier, which I think is so potent. How it really changes you in both directions. If you're lousy with sleep, it's screwing you up and, making you lose your badass qualities, but it can also work in the other direction. And you've got this amazing new book. So I want people to go to Amazon and get your book about sleeping smarter. So Shawn Stevenson, Sleep Smarter book.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. What an awesome recap. That's so great.
Isn't she good?
Yes. She's a professional.
Yeah, it's so easy because I just count on her paying attention and grabbing all the good points and just goof off. I just goof off and hang out.
So it becomes you, Pedram.
Totally.
I just heard a wonderful quote the other day that really speaks to, because the Robin Williams thing, like I said, it did catch me off guard and it was kind of tough to talk about, that God listens better through other people's ears. And no matter what we believe in, understanding that illness is a really, really internal suffering. And to understand, we really need to communicate. We really need to take advantage of all of the other wonderful people in our lives and the wonderful resources that we have access to express ourselves and to talk, because God listens better through other people's ears, to get the receptivity, to get the answers, so that we don't feel alone, because that's what it really is it's an illness where you feel alone, and nothing could be further from the truth. There are people that love you. There are people that care about you very, very much, but it doesn't matter much if you don't know it and if you don't communicate it. So I just wanted to add that in there to the mix. And thank you guys so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. And by the way, so you guys are on iTunes, crushing it. So I saw you guys there. I'm over in the fitness and nutrition section, the Model Health Show, so people can look me up there and continue this awesomeness. And I've got to have, Pedram's been on the show. Sarah, you've got to come on, rock the house. And I appreciate you guys so much.
I'm there, especially if you can give me a sneak peek at your tattoo right now.
All right.
So if you're not watching the video, you should watch the video.
Oh, my mom is going to be... No,
Yeah, he does a great.
Make you some kale.
He does a great show, you guys. You got to check out the Model Health Show for sure. And so, Shawn, keep fighting the good fight. You're such a good man. Always great to hang out with you, and we will meet again soon. I love sharing your wisdom and your great smile with our peeps.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, guys. You're the best.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now.